In this module, we'll be watching our technical trainer add the AD-64 multi-zone audio driver to the system file. Let's get started.
Last but not least is the final component of our system file for today is our AD4X. This is a special device because it's an audio device. And I'll explain what's going on. So there's a lot of little gotchas on this. Not really gotchas, but things that we're looking towards in the future. Back to our workbook, you'll see we have the AD4X, and this kind of lives in the AV rack, like I hope it does. Hope it's not just stapled to a wall somewhere. But what we can do with this, because it is a special device, and the driver is built a little bit special for it as well, we're going to do some tricky things in how we're going to place this into our workspace on the left. Normally, I would just add this global. I'm going to throw the device into global. I'm accessing it from multiple places. It has different zones inside of it. Makes sense. But when you actually look at the driver and you start scrolling down through some of our drivers I have listed here, and you select the RTI AD-64 driver, under the source column for this driver, you'll see it says zone and then next item in brackets. What this is doing is not only adding the driver globally, because that's where all drivers live in this system file, the actual codes, the module that lives within the processor, but we're also adding a source to the system file that runs off of that driver. And when it says zone next item, that means that as I continue to add instances of the same driver, it's going to keep incrementing to the next zone. Let's see this in action. Back to my workbook. Zone 1 is in the bedroom. So let's go ahead and select the bedroom, select our driver, and select next. You'll now see on the left-hand side it's going to ask me for the instance of the driver. We haven't added it before, so let's put a new driver in. And you'll also see this check mark as set as room audio source. What does this mean? Well, this means that because I'm adding a source to a room that is based on audio, like a receiver would be, a soundbar, some sort of media player that has its own set of speakers, or in this instance, distributed audio, it's going to say, hey, let's take our volume up, down, and mute. Let's map them to all the devices within this room, and let's make sure it says specifically for this zone that I added to the room. And we can see that in action when I select Add Device. It will add that Zone 1 source under my bedroom. And I'll kind of go one step further here, but let's go ahead and add the rest of these zones in here as well. Bathroom, same driver. I'll select Next. We'll use the same instance because I can control multiple zones within the same driver, so we don't have to add a new driver. Make sure it's set as room audio source and select Add. And as we add these, you'll see it's marched from Zone 1 to Zone 2, and so on to Zone 3 in my living room kitchen, and finally Zone 4 in my garage. So now we have each source listed under each zone I wish to operate it in, while having the driver settings still underneath global. So what was all this talk about the setting of the audio source for the room? Well, let's take a look at that. When I select the volume up, down, or mute buttons, you'll see at the top of the screen for our tag, volume up, it's now tied to a room macro. Well, and that makes sense. Obviously, if I'm in the same room, I'm probably going to have a room level macro for volume. So when I select the room macro button, instead of having an individual command here, it's now saying redirect to zone 3. So what does that mean? That means that we're taking this tag called volume up from the room macro level, and we're simply passing that tag down to the source level. Again, we're just passing the tag, and when we select that redirect, you'll see we're now in Zone 3 source configuration mute, volume down, volume up. And here's the individual command. Let's take a look at this one more time. We'll select the volume down instead. Room macro, we'll select that. Instead of having the individual command here, we're redirecting to a source. We're passing the tag. And when I select that redirect, it will bring me to that specific source. Again, this is just setting up things for in the future. But another way to look at it is with that volume up, I can actually remove this redirect, none, and I can actually add the specific zone volume up, and I can use the zone that I want, or sorry, zone 3. There we go. So think of adding the command here, basically the same thing as a redirect, but just setting up things for greatness.
Thanks for watching. In our next video, we'll be exploring Apex graphics. Stay tuned to learn more. We'll see you there.